Volodymyr Zelensky returned to the White House on Monday for a much more convivial meeting than on his last trip in February, accompanied by a host of European leaders. After much alarm over Donald Trump's summit with Vladimir Putin in Alaska last Friday, there are now hopes of a bilateral meeting between the Ukrainian and Russian presidents, which Trump says his administration is in the process of setting up. This will be followed by a second meeting with the US president present. But there are a number of red lines that remain to be negotiated, such as concession of Ukrainian territory, which Kyiv says is a non-starter. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he was open to meeting Vladimir Putin in that bilateral meeting without any conditions. But he also added all sides must express a willingness to end the war.
Russia first proposed a bilateral meeting between Ukraine and Russia, then a trilateral meeting. We are ready to accept any form of meeting between leaders because it's only at this level that we can resolve all these complex and painful issues. Therefore, I confirmed, and all European leaders supported me, that we are ready for a bilateral meeting with Russia.
We can go now to Ukraine and talk to France 24's Kyiv correspondent Emmanuelle Chaze. Good morning, Emmanuelle. How have Ukrainians been reacting to Volodymyr Zelensky's trip to Washington?
Good morning, Oliver. Well, for Ukrainians, there are a few key takeaways, especially when it comes to humanitarian issues. What was discussed yesterday was, for example, the fate of the some 19,000 Ukrainian children who have been forcibly deported to Russia. That was one of the key points that Ukrainians wanted to talk about. There was also that announcement by Donald Trump that the question of the prisoners exchange would be talked about. Donald Trump announced that there would be a swap in the near future. That is also something that was talked about. So this gives some hope for Ukrainians when it comes to the humanitarian question. However, there's still a vagueness remaining when it comes to security guarantees. Even if there was a lot of talk about it here in Ukraine, we still do not know what they exactly mean, what would be the form those guarantees would take, and under which conditions they could be implemented. So that remains a big interrogation here in Ukraine.
Now, there were a lot of plans and intentions outlined after the meeting, but is there anything concrete from Ukraine's point of view?
Well, that's exactly why Ukrainians at this stage are still a bit skeptical about everything that happened last night. Of course, the positive is that this meeting this time around went much more smoothly compared to what we saw back in February between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, and this time there was a clear support of EU leaders who were physically present in Washington. But in fact, Ukrainians still continue living under Russian bombs. Last night, Russia bombed the city of Kremenchuk in central Ukraine with a combined attack of drones and missiles. So for Ukrainians on the ground, it is very difficult to see that we may be gearing towards a peace when the bombing continues daily over their heads.
Thank you very much for that, Emmanuelle Chaze, our correspondent in